Okay, so finally, it's time to put all the animation that we've done, and then we're gonna edit it in After Effects. So first things first, we're gonna have to render what we've already done. So we have our finished animation here. This is what we finished last time. And we want to render this so you can throw it in After Effects and edit it and all that stuff. So what I'm gonna do, first I'm gonna find it in my folders. So here it's in shot 1. And I'm gonna turn off everything I don't need. So I just want to render the character at this point. So I'm gonna turn off the background, and that means the white 1920 by 1080 and the beige background as well. So we just have this transparency. Next, I want to make sure that I'm rendering the part that I want. So if you see down here on the timeline, I just have this slider over shot 1. So just this section is selected with the slider. And that means when I play it, it'll only play that bit, and also it'll only render that bit. So if you want to, you can select the area that you want to render. So I have this bit selected. Next, I want to crop this because my canvas is pretty big because I use this whole space for the rest of the map part. But it's only using that part of this canvas for this shot. So I want to cut it down so it's only that size, and to make sure I'm just going to skim through it just to make sure it doesn't go outside of the general area that I think it is. I think that's the widest place it goes, that frame there. So I'm going to get my crop tool. You can press C or you can go to the crop tool that's just up here. I'm just going to drag the end there so it's just that big, and I might drag the height down a little as well. Just like that, and then press the tick or press enter. It might take a little while to crop if it's a big canvas. Depends how fast your computer is, but there we go, it's all done. So I'm just going to skim through it again just to make sure it hasn't cut off any parts of the body and know it looks okay. So now we're ready to render. So to render, you go to File, Export, Render Video. And you'll be greeted with this window here. So what you want to make sure with here is that you have your name, so you can name it whatever you like. So I'm going to go ahead and name it, say, Shot 1 Cat. We'll just name it that. Below that, you can select the folder you want to save it in. So you click Select Folder, and you can choose where you want to save it. I'm saving it in the folder that's sort of the map part I'm working on. So in this case, it's gone. So I'm going to save it in there. And then all this here, these are the settings you sort of want to have. So the only ones you want to look at are these ones, so Adobe Media Encoder. If it's on Photoshop Image Sequence, it will render each frame as individual pictures, I'm pretty sure, so we don't want that. But that could be useful for other things. So we want Adobe Media Encoder, we want QuickTime. If we don't want transparency, we can do H.264, but we want to keep the transparency for this, so we keep it on QuickTime. Animation high quality, we leave all these how they are because that reflects what we already have here, like for the document size, for example, the frame rate, and all that stuff. And then on here, make sure it says work area. This was the bit we selected down here. And then down here, where it says render options in the alpha channel, make sure it says straight and matted, and this will keep this transparency here. So there's no need for a green screen. You can render your videos with their transparency. And we're going to go ahead and click render. And it'll probably take a few seconds to render, again depending on how fast your computer is. There we go, so it's all rendered. And then next, if you have a background, you're going to want to save that. Now my background's on a different document. So I just saved that as a PNG, and that'll do for that. So make sure you have your background saved if you have one. So we have all the stuff we want rendered for the time being. So let's hop on over to After Effects and we'll compile it all together and edit it. Okay, so we have everything rendered. It's time to throw everything in After Effects. Now, if you don't have After Effects, this tutorial will probably be pretty useless to you. So, I'm sorry in that case. But if you want tutorials for the editing program that you use, I'm sure there's plenty on YouTube and all that stuff. This is sort of a step-by-step of my own process on animation, and After Effects is a part of that. So yeah, this tutorial will be covering After Effects. I don't know After Effects very well, I only know the very basics. So I will not be going over sort of all the effects and stuff. There's all sorts you can do in this program. It's insane what you can do with it, but I only know a tiny portion of it, so I'll be going over some really simple stuff today. Okay, so first things first, you'll probably have this. Your windows might be different. If you want the windows I have, they're just here, and you can go onto window to bring up any other windows you may want. So we'll probably have this when we start off. We want to create our new composition, so that's sort of where we're going to be throwing all of our stuff. So I'm going to go to composition, new composition, and this little window will come up. You can name it whatever you want, so I usually name it main comp or just leave it as comp 1. Later on we can create multiple compositions, so if you want multiple shots in one animation, you can make separate compositions for them each, and then compile them into one composition at the end, just to keep things nice and tidy, but we're just going to keep it with the one composition for now. I have mine on HD TV 1080 at 25, so that's 1920 by 1080 pixels at 25 frames per second. Animation is 24 frames per second, but I like to have that extra frame just for a bit more smoothness with the camera and stuff. Keep all this the same. Your background color might be black. I just changed mine to white just because I think it's a bit, I don't know, a bit more friendly. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And then this will come up. Now yours will be on one view. You'll probably have this come up. So we have our timeline down here. This is where we can scrub through what we're going to have in our video. This is our canvas. This is where everything's going to be. This is what our camera is going to see. And right here is where we're going to have all of the stuff that's going to be in our animation. Like, for example, all of our items that we're going to put in here, like the background, the cat animation we just rendered. This is where it's all going to live. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and drag them in there right now. I'm going to find them first. So here I saved them in this folder. Here's the background that I want, so I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop that in there. And then this is the shot 1 cat that we just rendered, and I'm going to drag that in there as well. These are the only 2 items I need at the moment. You might want to add your audio in there as well, but for this I'm going to leave that out. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and position my background on here first, because it's going to be behind everything. So I'm just going to drag and drop that on there, and it's appeared on the timeline down here as well. Now you see there's lots of different options for these. There's all these little icons. They all mean separate things. I'm not going to go through them all because there's absolutely loads of things in After Effects, but just the little things. There's also this little arrow down here that comes with transform, and then you have these numbers here that allow you to manipulate whatever you're working on. Now usually I just manipulate it on the actual canvas here, so it's a bit more visual, but you can use the numbers down here as well. And also these little stopwatches, they represent adding keyframes. So say you press the stopwatch, this will add a little keyframe, which is this little yellow diamond, onto the timeline here. And what keyframes allow you to do, if I scrub along and then add a new keyframe by pressing this diamond over here, they allow you to tween things like this. So that's, you can sort of do that within those. I'm not going to do that with this though, just doing that to quickly show you, because we're going to be using that later for the camera. So I have my background there. I want to throw my cat in there as well, so I'm just going to go ahead and plop that on top. There they are. They're both sitting on each other. Okay, now what I am going to do now really quickly, just like what we did with our Photoshop animation, I'm going to select the workspace that I want. So I only want this lengthy animation here, which as you can see is really tiny on the timeline. I'm just zooming in here. Zoom in with this slider down here. I'm going to zoom all the way out, and I'm going to grab this yellow slider over here right at the end, and I'm just going to slide it down there just to where I need it, just here. There we go. So I only want it around my animation there. And that's there just so when I play it, it doesn't play continuously throughout the whole thing, because the default sort of length for an image is like 2 minutes, and we don't want it to scroll through the whole 2 minutes. I think you can change that, but again, I don't know everything about After Effects, so I'll have to look into that a bit more. So there we go. So this is our little workspace right here. And you could just, you know, save this as an MP4 and then call it a day. But what I like to do is I like to add my camera movements. Now this might get a little complicated, so bear with me. I'm not the best teacher, so I hope I do this okay. But we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna add some camera movements to this. First off, I'm gonna put it in 2-view perspective. So where it says 1 view down here, I'm gonna click that and go on to 2 views horizontal. And I'll have this here. Now this is what I had earlier, but I just put it away just to start from the beginning for you guys. Now as you can see, they're both exactly the same at the moment, but what they're going to be, the one on the right is going to be what the camera sees, and the one on the left is going to show us the world in which the camera resides. Now you'll see what I mean. I'm just going to add my camera. So I'll go ahead and right click on my composition down here. I'm going to go on to new and then camera, and then this will pop up. You can sort of leave all your settings here how you want. You can name your camera if you want, but I just leave it as camera 1, so I'm going to click OK. This is just telling us that the cameras don't affect 2D layers, which these are, but we're going to be changing that, so that's okay. We'll press OK. And as you can see, this has changed. So now this is showing the world in which the camera lives, and this is our camera down here. So it's looking at the canvas in which our 2 layers are. You can see our 2 layers here. They're both rectangular because they're 2-dimensional. And then this is our camera sitting here. Okay, so we have our camera. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my layers 3-dimensional. Now you can do that. If you look down here, you have this little cube icon. If you hover over it, it says 3D layer. We're going to click the boxes for that on both of these layers. So both of these are 3-dimensional now. And you can see on here that they've changed to a flat line, and that's because we're looking down at them from above. So say if I moved this background backwards, you can see it's moving away from the camera. And then the same with the other. And if I put that behind the background, you can see it disappears, and that's because it's behind the background, you can't see it. So this is how 3D layers work. They'll have 3 arrows. So just zoom in. You can zoom in with Control+ and Control-, by the way. It has the blue Z arrow, which allows you to move it towards and away from the camera. There's a red X arrow, which allows you to move it to the side. And there's the Y arrow. It doesn't actually look like an arrow because it's pointing at us, so it looks like a dot. This will move it up and down. You can also see these arrows on here, so you can see the green arrow is pointing up. You can change that on there as well. So this is how you manipulate those. And we manipulate our camera just down here in the same way. So he has the same arrows that the layers do. So it has the forward and backward, the left and right, and the up and down. If I can grab it, there we go. Now you can see our cat layer and our background layer are 3-dimensional, and they're separate from each other. So the background is behind the cat layer. You can kind of see this in effect when you move the camera. You can see they move at a sort of different speed when I move the camera around. So you can see the end of the cat finishes there on there, but if I move it this way, it finishes sort of where the background does as well. It's because the cat is slightly closer to the camera than the background is. So this sort of gives it a nice 3D effect. So if you say had a forest of trees and each of your layers of trees were different spaces from each other, it will create quite a nice effect if you zoom your camera in, because they'll move at a different pace. So you can have quite a nice effect with that, and that's why I like the 3D layers in the camera. With this though, we only have 1 layer for the background, so it's not going to be all that interesting. I just want to add camera moves following the character in this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to position my camera how I want it. I'm actually going to move my background a little closer. Don't mean to do that. There we go. move them a little closer like this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I position my camera where I want it. So I want my camera right there. You can always edit it later if you like. Make sure, by the way, your background doesn't clip off of the camera because it's not nice if you can see those edges. Okay, there we go. So this is the position in which I want the camera. If I click this little arrow next to the camera, you can see it has the transform options just like these other files did. I can go down here and I can manipulate the camera with the numbers just like I could with the background. So you can see you can manipulate the camera with these numbers as well if you like. I'm just going to leave it how it was. I'm going to be making keyframes for this camera just like I made for the other thing, for example. Whenever I move this camera, it not only moves the position of the camera, but it moves the point of interest as well. So you can see when I move it, they're both highlighted here on this, down here. I'm going to click the stopwatches on both of them, and it will make a keyframe for the camera. So that camera is in that position at that point in time. So I'm going to scrub through the animation to where he moves. There he goes. So when he gets to this position, I want the camera to move more towards his face. So I'm at this point in the timeline where I want the camera to move, so I'm just going to go ahead and move it. Because the stopwatches are selected on point of interest and position, it will automatically make a keyframe there for us. There we go, it's made some keyframes down there, so I'm just going to move my camera to where I want it. There we go, I just want it there. I don't want it to move too dramatically because it's quite a simple shot. And there we go. The camera should tween in between those two keyframes. So you can see if you scrub on the timeline, the camera is moving to where I wanted it to. So I'm going to go ahead and do that for the rest of the shot. So I'm going to scrub through this animation and change my camera where I want it. So just here, I want that to be down and maybe forward a bit. So you go and it moves towards those. And then just here, I want it to move just up there. And then slowly move this way for the rest of the shot. Okay, you can see it's sort of clipping the background a bit there. I'm going to fix that quickly just by moving the background down. Or up, rather. There we go. So you can see when I scroll through my animation, I can also press play on the little preview window up here. That's how the camera is moving. So I've animated my camera like that. Also, if you have your audio, you can preview the audio by clicking the RAM preview button up here. And it will play the audio with it as well. If you want more accuracy with the timing with your audio, you can hold Control and scrub through your timeline, and it will scrub through the audio at the same time. So you can have more accuracy with your timing if you do that. Okay, so we have all our camera movements. Say we wanted them to be a little bit smoother, you can get more complicated and select your camera and press this little graph button up here, the graph editor, and you'll see your keyframes as a graph. What you can do is you can drag these around so they're a bit smoother like this, and this will change the movement of the camera a little bit, so it might make the movements a little bit less choppy. Now this is optional, I'm just going to do this really quickly just to quickly show you. It probably won't be too evident, but it does make the camera a little bit smoother. And you can sort of play around with those as you like, and you'll get all sorts of different effects, like say if I did this. Let's try and make it do something really funky. So say if I had it like this, it'll be quite snappy like that. But yeah, I'm just going to leave it how it was, like that. And you can close it again by pressing the graph editor and you'll get your keyframes back. Okay, so I think we finished this shot. So say we want to render it and have it finished. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go to File, Export, Add to Render Queue, and I'll add it to your render queue right here. Now what I'm going to do, where it says output module, I'm going to click the arrow and go H.264. That will make it an MP4. You can use different settings if you want, but if you want to copy what I use for mine, I use H.264. And then where it says output 2 and it says main comp .mp4, you click that and you can choose what to name it and where to save it. So I'm going to save it here in my maps and gone folder. I'm just going to save it as shot1. Then click save, and then everything we're all done. Just go back and double check that you have this slider selected only around the part you want to render, otherwise it will render for a long time. Go back and then go ahead and press render. Now it will take a different time depending on how much editing you've done, how long it is, or how fast your computer is. But you can see there it's rendering real time on the screen there. You'll get a little sound when it's done. And then it should just be where you chose to save it. So there it is, it's shot 1. So that's an MP4, that's all ready to go and upload to YouTube. So that's essentially it. That's all my step-by-step process of finishing an animation. I hope you found these useful. I'm sorry this last one will be only really useful to people who use After Effects. But if you do use After Effects, maybe you know a little bit more about the camera, even though what I do is incredibly simple when editing. I just really like the camera, it's great. Yeah, my next tutorials, they'll probably be a lot later, sort of more in the summertime, but I hope to cover things like more in depth about Photoshop animation and also lip syncing, and possibly some other things that are quite popular requests. But for now, thanks so much for watching these tutorials. I hope you have a fun time creating animations. I'll see you next time.